Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
Well, today's Friday, so it's going to be the thing I did last week. Now, I did mention last week that I was going to gather up all the complaints and comments I got over the week and then put them on Friday if people enjoyed them. Got a lot of people commenting saying they enjoyed it, so I will continue doing it. But I would like to point out that I will also use the Friday show to possibly bring out some things that people sent in to me that couldn't fit in other shows. And I used to do mail opening videos, but the mail was not always episodic enough for me to do shows about it. So for instance, I got a package in the mail yesterday from Tom. And I'm not going to read the whole letter to you that he wrote to me with it, but he sent me a Lionel Hutz action figure. So, for those of you who don't know, Lionel Hutz is the attorney from The Simpsons. And when Phil Hartman passed away and was murdered, they retired the character. But one of the funniest characters of all time on The Simpsons was the attorney from The Simpsons, Lionel Hutz. So I'm toying with whether I should leave it in the box or not. I took the cars out of the box so I could play with them. But this is one of those things that's got a bunch of neat stuff, including a diploma and a suitcase, and apparently if you squeeze him, he says things. But I'm not sure whether I'll take him out of the box yet or not, so thank you very much for that. I also got, and this is cool, you know, I have an affinity for the wing cars, the turbine cars, the Tuckers, and there's, of course, people out there with their own things that they like. And a guy named Robert sent me a letter and said, Steve, greetings from Colorado. I enjoy your videos and podcasts. I'm sending you 2 volumes, which I hope you will enjoy. And Robert is a big fan of fire engines. So he sent me a pictorial history of the fire engine, volume 2 and volume 1. So coffee table books. And yes, I do have a coffee table. So that's where they'll go for a while as I flip through them from time to time to check out all the cool fire engines. Now, let's just discuss some of the crazy stuff that people sent me over the week. And somebody complained, and I mentioned before, I did 2 videos about Mike Hughes, the guy who was trying to launch a rocket, and he died in the process. And he had on the side of his rocket, flat Earth. And it was widely publicized that he was flying his rocket in an attempt to get up high enough to observe the edge of the Earth, whether it was curved or not. And I got a ton of people complaining, going, Steve, he was not a flat earther. He was just taking advantage of the flat earth people to get their money. And of course, if you want to take advantage of somebody and use their money, there's other groups he could have used, but he's the one who chose to put the words flat earth on the side of his rocket. So you can't blame us for saying, hey, the guy had flat earth on the side of his rocket as he launched and, did that. But the funny thing is, I've now had several people tell me specifically that Mike Hughes is not dead. That's how deep this conspiracy goes. So the earth is flat. Mike Hughes is not a flat earther, but he's also not dead. Wrap that all up in the riddle, surrounded by an enigma inside of a mystery. And there you have it. By the way, quite a few people said that the only reason that Mike Hughes has been labeled a flat earther is because the mainstream media made it up. The mainstream media made it up. Even though he put flat earth on the side of his rocket. One of the things that caused the most objection to a video I did recently is the one I did about the Ford GT. And Ford sells a car called a GT. They're extremely desirable. And if you want one, you got to get onto a list, which is hard to get onto. But you have to sign a contract saying that you promise not to flip it for 2 years. And if you don't want to sign the contract, you don't have to buy the car. And I had a ton of people say, Steve, that's not enforceable. Once you buy the car, it's yours. Except you signed a contract that said, I won't flip the car. And I had several people say, courts don't enforce contracts like that. Courts enforce contracts all the time. 2 consenting adults enter into a contract, the subject of which is not illegal. Courts will often enforce those, and they do. So the idea that once you buy it, it's yours, which I bet about 100 people wrote, once you buy it, it's yours. That's true with a lot of stuff. But if you sell it, there might be a liquidated damages clause in the contract, or there might be a contract clause that says you can't sell it. So, I'm not a betting person, so I can't really say I'm going to take bets on this, but let's watch and see what happens, because I suspect that Ford's going to prevail in this action. By the way, I had quite a few people saying that Ford is being mean. Ford is being mean. Why? They're enforcing a contract. And I had several people raise a question, which I think is an interesting question to raise. But people said if Ford really wanted to hang on to those cars for 2 years, they could have leased them for 2 years. So I'm Ford. I lease you the car for 2 years with an option to purchase at the end of whatever. The reason that's not an ideal situation is that means that Ford then has to become a financier in the transaction and oversee something for 2 years. And then, what happens halfway through? You breach the lease. I'm sure they wanted to just sell them, get it over with. They had more than enough people who wanted them. So they pick and choose among them and they find the right people. And it turns out that I believe so far there have been 2 instances of people who tried flipping their cars early. John Cena was one, and this whole brouhaha in Canada is the second. Now, another thing that was raised recently in one of my videos, and I was reading the comments, and I should tell you that as a creator on YouTube, I've got a channel and I've got a page I can go to that's a summary of what's happening on my page, on my channel. So it shows all the most recent videos and how they're doing. And it shows all the recent comments, regardless of what video they went up to. So I don't have to go around and check each video for comments. All the videos show up in a live feed by time. So when I get up in the morning, one of the first things I do in the morning is I turn my computer on and I go to that. I read all the comments that are posted overnight. Sometimes the best stuff happens at night. They only come out at night. And in response to a video I did several years ago, I forgot which video it was, but I was wearing my Copper Harbor Volunteer Fire Department t-shirt. I've got a t-shirt that's navy blue, very close to this color right here. It's got a yellowish maize-colored logo right here. It's Copper Harbor Volunteer Fire Department, or something to that effect. Copper Harbor. Copper Harbor is a town in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. I've got a ton of friends up there. A friend of mine is actually one of the volunteer firemen, and I bought the shirts to support them, okay? So I'm wearing that shirt in a video where I'm discussing a legal issue. And someone who didn't know who I am, apparently, made the comment and said, dude, go back to fighting fires. This is actually a legal question. Little did he know that the man on camera was an attorney wearing a volunteer fire department shirt. He was not a fireman. He was an attorney. So, it's funny because I used to mention at the beginning of every single video, I am an attorney practicing law in the state of Michigan, 28 years, fields of consumer protection law, blah, 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 blah. The long intro, we used to call it. And I stopped doing that because I thought everyone knows that by now. And I forget that once in a while somebody comes along who does not know that. Somebody pointed out, and this is pretty funny, I mentioned last week, Friday, I believe it was, that I got a lot of complaints from people when I said that if they catch you counting cards in a Vegas casino, they'll walk up to you and throw you out. And if you ask them why they're throwing you out, they're going to go, hey, you're cheating. We don't allow you to card count in here. And I had several people say it's not cheating to card count. I had several people say they can't use the word cheat. And all this. And I was simply getting more to the fact that they'll throw you out. What they tell you, I mean, like I said, they can go bleep, blop, bloop. If they're throwing you out, they're throwing you out. And somebody, and this is, I appreciate it's going to help. Bill sent me a note and said, Steve, regarding the above mentioned video, specifically the part where you address being called a cheat in a casino. It turns out in Nevada, the statutes do actually call cheating. Now, it's true that they might not consider card counting cheating, but they do refer to people who are not playing by the rules as cheaters. So the idea that they can't call you a cheater, the statute calls you a cheater. And you want to look it up, it's NRS, I'm assuming it's Nevada Revised Statutes, NRS 465.083, and it's titled Cheating. It is unlawful for any person, whether the person is an owner or an employee of or a player in an establishment, to cheat at any gambling game. So they call it cheating right in the law. So the idea that they can't call anything cheating because you might get sued for using the C word is wrong. He said, I was unable to locate an NRS that had a list of words that could be used or not used to eject someone from a casino. So, and Bill points out this took about 37 seconds. So, Bill, thank you very much for that. I appreciate that. And I'm always amazed at people who tell me that the law in their state says this or the law in their state says that. And that's something I see almost every day, every couple days. And regardless, I'll say, you can't say that. And I go, yeah, it is. And I go, what state are you in? They go, I'm in Wyoming. And I type in a search and I find it in about 37 seconds, as Bill points out. So one of the other funnier things that I get weekly, about once a week now, I've got quite a few subscribers on my channel compared to when I started out. So in the past year, I've gained some subscribers. If you graphed it, it goes kind of like this, and that's a good thing. And about 3-4 months ago, I started getting weekly emails. And these are from different people each time. But they're from people who claim that they run what's called a multi-channel network. And they'll actually send me an email and say, Steve, or sometimes they'll go like, Dear Lehto's Law, or Dear Steve Lehto. And it'll go, I am so-and-so, and I run an MCN, and they'll put parenthetical, a multi-channel network. And they'll say things like, we can help you monetize your income stream. We've been prioritizing the monetization and efficiency of multi-channel networking and they throw all these buzzwords around. And if you sit there and read it and just kind of unfocus your eyes and look at the keywords, it's basically, we want some of whatever it is that you're making off your channel. And so I am looking at these emails, and the first one I got, I thought, well, that's flattering. I've never gotten somebody before saying they're interested in my channel in that way. And so I write them back and I say, I'm curious, what can you do for me that I can't do for myself? And they don't even bother responding to that. Apparently, if you ask that question, it indicates that you're too smart for them. Because they're looking for people who are going to go, oh, you can help me prioritize the efficiency of my monetization, whatever that means. You want some of my money? And so I got another one a couple days ago, and somebody said that, and they said, and they actually said, we can help you monetize. And so I wrote them back, and I said, other than saying you want some of my money, what can you do for me? Crickets. Dead air. No response. Finally, I have to tell you that not every complaint I get is about a recent video. I put up a video a couple of years ago called Fun with Restaurants. And I talked about a bunch of different incidences I had. Incidences? Those are all words, and if they're not, I'm copywriting right now. I talked about a couple of instances of incidents I had in restaurants. And I tell the story about how I was working at a radio station. And I'm not going to tell the whole story now, but I got food poisoning at a McDonald's. And I will go to my grave saying that's what happened. I've spoken to doctors. They say, yep, sounds like what happened. For some odd reason, people who weren't there and have, I don't know, they have McDonald's stock or they don't like me talking. I don't know what the problem is. But for some odd reason, after that video went up, about once a month, I'd get an irate comment from somebody calling me a liar and saying that didn't happen. You need to stop saying these things. This is a lie. And so when they would do that, I would often respond to them. And if they got out of control, I'd block them. And I know that some people don't like to hear that I block people off my channel, but usually I block them after I get death threats or insults or other vile profanity or whatever. And so apparently, and this couldn't have been recent because I don't recognize the name, I got an email this morning though from somebody. And I have to edit the email because the email's filled with profanity. But it says, to steve@lehtoslaw.com, subject blocked on YouTube channel. And he put in a fake phone number, because there's actually a thing for a phone number on my thing. He put in 5555555. Message body, you blocked me on your YouTube channel. I have an earned opinion in the food-related illness, as I contribute to the Mayo Clinic and food-related illness. I called you out, and you tried to call me out, saying, are you smarter than Mayo Clinic? And he spells clinic, clink, C-L-I-N-C. I would say I am not, but I am at least as smart as the page I contribute to. We'll get back to some of this. You have an earned opinion on law. I do not, but I find law interesting. That's why I listen to your earned opinion. If you were sick from McDonald's on your story, I would consider from your story it to be as likely as you winning the Super Bowl 5 times up buying a Super Bowl ticket. I hope you get out of your own bias with your unlikely story and stop being I can't say that word, to people that are experts in a field you have no knowledge in, as you expect a kinder gardener not to claim they have a great knowledge of law than you do. Stop ebbing and, can't say that word again, buy. And he signs it with apparently his YouTube nickname. So he says I have an earned opinion. Now, I don't know if he means learned opinion, but he says earned about 6 times, and he never spells it correctly. So let's assume it's learned opinion. But he says, I have an earned opinion in the food-related illness. I contribute to the Mayo Clinic. You give them money? What do you do? And food-related illness, I called you out, and you tried to call me out. And what I'm getting at is, I'm assuming, I'm trying to translate this for you, is several people said you cannot get food poisoning that quickly. And in the story, I said I ate the McDonald's in the late afternoon, and that night I got sick. I had several people go, you cannot get food poisoning that fast. So when I was trying to counter some of these, I simply did a search on food poisoning quickness and how quick it. And the page that pops up over and over again is the Mayo Clinic. Has got a page that describes food poisoning. And there are types of food poisoning that can occur that quickly. So I would just say, oh, well, you say it's impossible. The Mayo Clinic says it's correct. And he's now saying that he has contributed to the Mayo Clinic, and therefore he is smarter than the Mayo Clinic, but I am not. But then he says, for instance, if you are sick from McDonald's, I would consider that to be as likely as winning the Super Bowl 5 times without buying a Super Bowl ticket. Now, do I need to explain what the Super Bowl is? And that you don't win it by buying tickets to it? I don't think any of the winners have got to buy tickets to play in the Super Bowl. So my own bias with my unlikely story, well, I was there. You weren't. So I have firsthand knowledge of the story because I was there. And by the way, he goes, stop being and he calls me this name 3 times. But for me to say I have a story and I tell you the story and you call me a liar and I say, no, I'm telling the truth. I'm not being a vile word. For you to call me a liar when I tell you a story that happened to me, I think that makes you one, but whatever. But he says that if you expect I guess he means kindergartner, not to claim they have a great knowledge of the law. I've never met a kindergartner on my channel. My channel's not aimed at children. Just ask Kappa. So he goes, stop ebbing and I think he means stop being But apparently he's upset because I blocked him. And I had to have blocked him months ago. So I don't remember having this discussion with anybody in several months. But again, that's the kind of emails I get from people who are up at 2 o'clock in the morning. I wrote him a note back and said, would you like me to unblock you? He hasn't responded yet. So there you go. That's the wrap up of the feedback I got this week. I was thinking about calling this episode the airing of the grievances, but that's a Seinfeld thing and it's a little bit too specific. So I'm still thinking, but right now we'll call it, the Friday roundup or something. Hope you enjoyed it. Questions, comments, put them below. Otherwise, talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. When you judge another, you do not define them, you define yourself.